Next up, we have got Renaissance Oil with Craig Stank.
Thank you. Where's the clock? Do I have to, is it, sorry, where is it? Oh, right here. Oh, I better get going here. Well, thank you. Renaissance Oil is a, one way to explain it is it's a pure play on Mexico oil and gas. We do nothing else but focus on Mexico. We're not in Colombia, Africa. We're 100% focused on Mexico. Mexico has a vastly underdeveloped world-class hydrocarbon base, and we believe that we can build a significant oil and gas producer by solely focusing in Mexico. Renaissance is the only publicly listed oil and gas producer in Mexico. And we are listed on the, do I click? We are listed on the TSX Venture Exchange. We have 278 million shares outstanding, market cap of 70 million. No debt. We've got about $14 million in the treasury. We had about $14 million in the treasury, and we're producing 1,650 BOE per day. Now that 1,650 BOE per day, we're 100% on. We're in the southern region of Mexico, and we're embarking on a drilling program this summer where we believe we'll take it up to about 5,000 BOE per day, which is a pretty near-term catalyst. It's a big jump in production. We're confident that we'll achieve that kind of production, and again, it's a near-term catalyst. But the real near-term catalyst is Renaissance, in conjunction with its partner Luke Oil and Pemex, are embarking on developing Mexico's first shale oil play. And we're focusing right now on a 60,000 acre block called Untitled Land. It's in the heart of the Tampico-Misantla Basin, just between the Gulf of Mexico and Mexico City, where we have over 6 billion barrels of oil in place just in the Upper Jurassic shales alone. And why this is a near-term catalyst is we've been studying these shales for 3 years, and we're now in June going to drill the first IOC, International Oil Company, operated shale well in the history of Mexico. And we believe we've got the team to do it. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Mitchell Energy, but that's the company that cracked the code on liberalizing gas from the Barnett shales, and the four key technical guys that actually cracked the code to commercialize shales were at Mitchell Energy. We reassembled that team, and they're now with Renaissance, and they plan on being the first to crack the code in Mexico. Just real quickly, the Tampico-Misantla Basin, where Untitled Land is right in the heart of, has been categorized by IHS as one of the world's onshore super basins. It's already produced 7 billion barrels, mostly of oil, another 5 billion of proven probable yet, but importantly, in the unconventionals, there's 35 billion barrels of oil yet to be, of prospective resource, which is actually larger than the prospective resource in the deep water and shallow in the Gulf that everybody's after right now. So we believe that's Mexico's crown jewel. And the majors are now waking up to this and starting to come in on us from the east. Now, to give you an example of how prolific the source rock or these Upper Jurassic shales are in Mexico, you can see Untitled Land over to the left. We're drilling shallow formations. We're on our 10th well. They're all coming on production, but then imminently we're going to drill into the black Upper Jurassic shales, and again that's in June. But interestingly, the Cerro Azul 4 well, which was drilled back in 1908, produced at 260,000 barrels a day. It's the most prolific, highest producing oil well in the history of the industry. Again, sourced by the Upper Jurassic shales. And then further, the Cantarell field, discovered by Pemex in 1976, offshore shallow water Mexico, they developed it into a 2.1 million barrel per day field at its peak production, the largest offshore field in the world. Again, sourced by these Upper Jurassic shales. So the Upper Jurassic shales are a world-class shale, but they have never been tapped for development out of the shales. They've never been fracked before. Now we're comparing the key characteristics of the Jurassic shales to the Eagle Ford. They're they're both carbonates. They're very frackable. They're brittle. They're frackable. One of the key characteristics is that the resource concentration in both shales are very similar. You got to have resource concentration. You got to have a lot of oil jammed into one unit of measurement. This unit of measurement here is per acre foot. You can see that the Eagle Ford is 548 barrels per acre foot, and the Jurassic shales is 564, basically the same. But the big difference here is that the Eagle Ford is 200 feet thick. The Upper Jurassic shales in Mexico are over 3 times that. So you've got, on a per section basis, you've got a lot more oil. And the Matted Land project, 60,000 acres, we've got 6.2 billion barrels of oil in place at an 8% recovery. That's a 500 million barrels. Renaissance should have about 50% of that. That's 250 million barrels at at least $10 in the ground after capital. That's $2.5 billion worth of value to Renaissance. So you can see why that's quite a catalyst that's coming up, where we're drilling into these shales for the first time. And 3 minutes. One of the reasons why, or the primary reason why we went after at Matted Land and joined Luke Oil, and Renaissance is now operator, is, as you can see, here's the sweet spot of the basin here. And then Matted Land is right in the sweet spot. So how do you define the sweet spot? It's got to be overpressured for a shale oil play. You got to have lots of pressure to push those more viscous molecules through the rock, but you want light oil and condensate. Anything below 37 API is not going to work. There's not a shale oil play in the world that's commercial below 37 API. Here we're at 41 and higher, all the way up to condensate or jet fuel. So with the combination of high pressure, the lighter molecules, volatile oil, we expect high production rates out of this. And here's, for example, in 2014, Pemex drilled a shale well. They're offshore players. They don't have any shale experience, but they see what's going on up north of the border. They wanted to drill into their shales, and they drilled southeast of Matted Land, 40 kilometers, right about here. But they drilled further up the basin, so the oil is more viscous, and it was 37 API oil. And so it's harder to move through the rock, and you have less pressure. But they still got 650 barrels a day. The first wells in the Eagle Ford were 200 barrels a day. So this, it was, from an exploration standpoint, it was a fantastic success. So that's a good analog. Anyway, new shale players moving in on us from the east. The momentum is picking up in the basin. Here's some analysis. I'm running out of time. I'm not going to get into it too deeply, but the red and the blue are the interconnectivity of the pore system, and that looks just like the Eagle Ford. Here's our forecasted production rates. We've got the Eagle Ford. I said 200 barrels a day. The initial wells came in at 200 barrels a day on the Eagle Ford, but then some of the producers, the first producers, were doing 600. Eagle Ford now is averaging 1,300 barrels a day with an EUR of a million barrels, very prolific wells. That first Pemex well did 650. We believe further down into the basin, deeper into the basin where Matted Land is, with a lot more volatile oil, again, over 40 API to right up to jet fuel, will easily produce 1,200 barrels a day, and with an EUR of a million barrels. Lastly, here's the Mitchell Energy team. It's it is a very unusual, successful team. These are the guys that are the pioneers of the Barnett Shale. The guy second from the top, Nick Steinsberger, is the guy who came up with the slickwater frac that's used all over the world. He named it the slickwater frac. That's what all shale players use now. So anyway, a very experienced team. Thank you.